Hey everyone, it's me John again, and welcome back to a special edition of BrainScratch. We're going to do things a little bit different this week. I've basically gone through my list of suggested episodes that came from all of you wonderful viewers out there, and I looked for stories that were most likely to be hoaxes. As a matter of fact, up on my screen right now, I have the Wikipedia article about the Apollo 20 hoax. If you don't know about this, you can check out this article. Of course, it's in the description box below. But just a brief on it is someone started creating some YouTube videos using old NASA materials and tweaking them up a little bit. And they were saying that there was a secret Apollo mission, Apollo 20. And what's interesting about this one is it's pretty much called out as a hoax, as you can see here, even on Wikipedia. And there's a bunch of supporting information to help you come to that conclusion. Now, some of the stories we're going to cover today do not go down that easy, but one of them in particular, it looks like is pretty well identified as a hoax. I'm not going to tell you which one it is until we get to the end of the review, and I'm going to cut this up into 3 parts. So basically each story I'm reviewing is going to have its own mini episode, so be sure to follow along, click at the end of each video to get to the next one, and of course hopefully you get to the end of the series so you can learn which one is truly a hoax and maybe the other 2 are just looking like hoaxes to me, and maybe you have some feedback on that. As always, please be sure to drop it in the comment box below. So let's get started. The first story we're going to be covering here is called the Ourang Medan mystery. And you can do a search on YouTube. There's one video in particular that's pretty good about this mystery, so I've included that in the message box below. As a matter of fact, quick shout out to the creator, WilliamDeFalco. I just bumped into his website or his YouTube content looking for this, and I really like how he presents his urban mysteries or urban legends series. Kind of feels like BrainScratch. He's just got a very open mind, likes to do research, and it turns out a good video. So I just wanted to give him a quick shout out and ask you all to check out his material. Of course, after you're done watching BrainScratch. So to start with, the basics of this story are the Urang Medan is a ship. This is around World War II era. There's some information that is kind of slipshody about the time frame that this happened in. A lot of people seem to think it was June 1947. There was some articles that we can confirm were being written about it in February of 48, and it's strange because other people seem to believe that that means that the occurrence was around February of 48, but I don't think so. If it did occur, for me, the 1947 time frame sounds more reasonable because I believe communications and getting that to a news story weren't quite as fast as we have nowadays. Granted, they did have technology that could enable communication in that time frame, but I think the pipeline to media and publication was not quite as fast as it is nowadays. That being said, let's take a look real quick at the Wikipedia article on it. The SS Ourang Medan was a ghost ship which, according to various sources, became a shipwreck in Indonesian waters after its entire crew had died under suspicious circumstances. Skepticism exists about the truthfulness of the story, suggesting the ship may have never actually existed, but it has become something of a legend. So apparently this translates to it's Malay or Indonesian for man or person, and Medan is the largest city on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, so apparently it means person from Medan or man from Medan. And here is the talking about the story's first appearance was a series of 3 articles in the Dutch-Indonesian newspaper De Lokomotief Samaragan Handels en Advertentie Blad, which I wish they would have translated, but they didn't. And it lists the date of publication for each of the continuing stories there. And pretty much at the end of that series, the article says, look, this is all we know about it. Please stop sending us questions. Basically, we've shared all the information we have with you guys in these 3 articles, which is kind of a weird ending to a story like that. Quite honestly, an investigative reporter could probably do more research to try to extract more information around this. And even that statement just feels a little strange to me in terms of putting out media and putting out messages like that, because if nowadays at least, if you have a news story that is popular and will sell newspapers, they will stretch that out as far as it can go. If there's some other aspect to be covered in it, it's usually going to get researched and covered. And in this case, when you talk about an entire ship's crew being found dead, which I know we haven't quite discussed yet, but basically this was supposedly a Dutch crew. They might have been transporting some toxic chemicals. That's kind of one of the things that's talked a lot as one aspect of this story, that perhaps those chemicals had something to do with their demise. But there was a Morse code message sent, and supposedly an American ship called the Silver Star heard it. Here's the message. SOS from Ourang Medan, we float. All officers, including the captain, dead in chart room and on the bridge. Probably whole of crew dead. Then there's a few confused dots and dashes, and then 2 words came through clearly. They were, I die. Certainly sounds like a good start to a ghost story. So as the story goes, the Silver Star found the ship within a few hours. They tried to signal to it. It did not return any signals, so they sent a boarding party. The boarding party, upon arriving at the ship, saw just grotesque images of people dead all over the place. And there was some specific things they noted. The people that were dead seemed to be almost like they were pushing away, like their hands were usually stretched forward. Their faces seemed to be in extreme shock, which apparently is not always common, particularly with death of people by poisons or suffocation. And for some reason it keeps coming up that even the dog was found dead with its face in this kind of gnarled manner, which I'm not sure if that's just an embellishment of a hoax or a true accounting of the story. Now, where this story gets to be a bit cloudy is in terms of the Urang Medan itself. There have been researchers that have tried to track down this ship, find historical records of it, and apparently they can't. And I've even seen some conflicting information about the Silver Star. I've seen information saying that, yes, this was a ship. It was previously a merchant ship. It was drafted by the U.S., renamed the Silver Star, and then eventually given back to the company that owned it originally, and it was renamed again. Then I've seen other information that says, well, I've found research on the Silver Star, but it was not an American ship. That's a Canadian ship. So that story becomes a little bit fuzzy in that case also. But apparently the Ourang Medan, there are no records of it. Now, it is possible that it was conducting some sort of illegal activity, and if that's the case, that might have been the name that they just assigned the ship for that specific trip. So there are some excuses that you could kind of throw at it, or reasoning that you could put into place for why that name of that ship might not be known in that manner. As a matter of fact, directly off the Wikipedia site, they had a letter to the CIA that was written about it, and this tries to take the Ourang Medan story and even throw it towards a possible alien intervention. Someone typed up this letter. Unfortunately, the name has been redacted about who it went to, but at the bottom you can see it was sent to the assistant to the director of the CIA, which apparently there are many directors according to the Wikipedia article. Oh, here we go. C.H. Mark Jr. is who sent this message. And just to give you a brief on it, he's using information from historical retellings about people seeing silver discs in the sky, flames of fire that come out of the water and destroy objects, and he's essentially trying to tie a UFO type conspiracy to what happened to the Ourang Medan. This is a really good article written by a website called mysteriousuniverse.org, and if you're a fan of this show, I think you would really enjoy reading some of their information. Apparently they also have a podcast. They have a full subscription service. It's something I'm going to look into a little more. But I really enjoy how they covered this story. Once again, bunch of great research. Seems like there's some good open-mindedness and critical thinking, and they help kind of guide the reader towards what they believe is a conclusion, but they leave it open for interpretation. That being said, this article goes in particular into a man who researched this at length for approximately 50 years. And his name, if I could find it again, author and historian Roy Banton. So he did a lot of research on this and supposedly did do that investigative research that I was suggesting earlier and found other people that knew more to the story. Apparently he found someone that knew that there seemed to be some smoke that started. Originally the Silver Star was supposedly going to tow the Ourang Medan, but all of a sudden smoke started coming out of, I think it was, I don't know if it was a storage room or an engine room, but it was room number 4, which apparently this historian found significant. And the crew, the boarding party that was from the Silver Star, left the Urang Medan quickly when they saw that there was this smoke coming out of it, and apparently within moments it exploded and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. So apparently no one has been able to find it or do some kind of expeditions to try to see. I imagine that if it sank that quickly, even if there was a raging fire, that there would be a lot of debris that should be left around and still be able to be found. I know from other research I've done, bodies will typically float at some point. As a matter of fact, during some airline crashes, it's been noted that bodies travel in the ocean quite a bit and wind up on beaches. And apparently there doesn't seem to be any accounting for that. That's one of the reasons why I throw a lot of doubt into this story, and it really feels like it could be a hoax to me. If you consider a crew on a boat at that time, I imagine it couldn't be less than 50 people, might have been upwards of 100 or more. And then you consider the crew of a US boat in the Silver Star. There's a lot of people that should have some pieces of information about that story. And for the people that were on the Urang Medan, there should be a ton of family members. That should ripple into hundreds of people being affected by those deaths. And the information to support that just is not there. It just doesn't seem like there's anyone that is speaking about this from kind of an interpersonal level like that. And it's not that long ago. This is only World War II. So, I mean, you know, we're talking 60 years. It's even feasible that someone that was servicing or working on the Silver Star could still be alive today. So it is pretty recent history, and it's hard for me to believe that it was just completely wiped under the rug like that. However, that does come to another theory. This article talks about Unit 731, which was founded in 1932 by a brilliant yet misguided Japanese bacteriologist. And essentially the theory here is that there was some type of chemical weapons that were being stored in China, and the Urang Medan was responsible for transporting those weapons, possibly into US custody. And that is one area where some people believe that this story could have been covered up by governments, that they didn't want to have their hands dirty with this tragedy. They didn't want the truth about whatever this operation was to come out. Bit more believable than UFO stories, but still very hard to substantiate, very hard to find any supporting information one way or another. People have also tried to bring up natural phenomenon like methane bubbles, essentially a giant bubble of methane gas that erupts from the bottom of the ocean and just happened to perfectly fit around the Urang Medan long enough to kill everyone that was on it. This also just does not feel very strong to me. There's not, at least in the research I've done, there's not a whole lot of science to support that theory. And of course, the theory that we're all dancing around, is it possibly a hoax? Is this possibly all made up to sell newspapers? Is it made up to spread just another seafaring horror story, something for guys to talk about while they're having a beer? I am not sure myself. Or am I? And that brings us to the next video. So be sure to click if you want to follow along this journey of potential hoax stories on BrainScratch. See you in the next video.